adjusting my lighting. Hello. Do we like, that's pretty cool. Hi, lunch break live. Oh, good, I'm glad you're here. Hello. Wait, that's weird. Let's go. There we go. Hey guys, I'll wait just a second for other people to join. Thank you for joining. Whoops. Hi Glenn, hi Masta. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So it's really funny, as I prepare sometimes for these live streams, I'm picking out what things I want to talk about. I'm doing really good. How are you? So I'm preparing for this live stream, and I'm picking things that I want to talk about. And usually when I do that, when I'm putting everything together, an unintentional theme will present itself. And I think the theme for today is just clown people. So we're going to talk about a lot of clown people. Hey Sarah, good afternoon. Hi Knowledge, really good afternoon. Thank you. It is good. It's my noon. Pleasure. Ah, Siri, it does that all the time. I didn't say anything to you. Get off my live stream. Let's go, Brandon. Hi, JB. All right, we'll get started. First, we can update about this Jussie Smollett trial. So I'll talk about Jussie Smollett, AOC, and Lori Lightfoot. We recently talked about AOC's really dumb comments about the smash and grab crimes that have been on the rise, even citing Walgreens. Well, Walgreens actually clapped back at her, which was really funny. So I'll talk about that for a second. And then I have some Gavin Newsom. We can go to Kamala Harris, just all kinds of fun stuff. And how the Biden administration is trying to work with the media because they feel like they're getting really bad negative coverage, which is so funny. Because if the mainstream media is actually giving a Democratic politician bad coverage, that means they're probably doing a really bad job, because we know that MSN loves their Democrat candidates and will do everything in their power to make them look good. But sometimes when you do a job that is just so bad, they can't help but tell the truth. So anyway, okay, so Jussie Smollett, he took the stand in his own trial, which typically you're advised not to do. That's why a lot of people are able to plead the fifth, and the reason that's a bad decision is because a lot of people will take the stand and they'll end up accidentally incriminating themselves or saying something that can be later used against them. And a prosecution in a case like that is really they're very well equipped to find those holes in your argument and use your own words against you. That's why you can plead the fifth, and that's why typically people will advise you not to take the stand in your own case. That was the case with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, but Kyle Rittenhouse was kind of an anomaly because, first of all, his case they were winning. Kyle Rittenhouse's case was winning. They were doing really well. So typically you will only take the stand if it's like a last resort. And in Kyle's case, it wasn't. So a lot of people were worried when he took the stand. Is he going to ruin this already winning case? And Kyle ended up doing a really good job and spoke really well for himself. And I think for Kyle, it was his first opportunity to defend himself, not only in the court, but really to defend himself to the world, because we never got to hear from him. So he took the stand. He did a really good job. I can't say the same for Jussie Smollett. It was just an absolute disaster. So I'll give you a few highlights from Jussie taking the stand. And I do have to say this, I give Jussie Smollett a little bit of credit because he really committed. Like, you would think at this point, there's so much evidence against him. There is so much evidence that says you clearly planned this. But he just sticks to his guns, and he's saying, no, I'm innocent. So I guess I have to give him credit for his unwavering commitment. He really made a choice, and he stuck with that choice. So this is some of the things that we found out when Jussie Smollett took the stand. Well, the first thing wasn't really an implication towards Jussie Smollett, but it was towards CNN anchor Don Lemon, which I made a video about yesterday, or I always call him Don Lemon. But I made a video about this yesterday, and one of the things that happened when that sort of implicated Jussie is that when cops showed up and when they were investigating Jussie, they asked to have access to Jussie's phone. And Jussie said no. So he did not let the police officers look at his phone. And he actually brought that up when he was on the stand. He was questioned about that, and he said the reason he didn't give up his phone is because there is a text message from Don Lemon on his phone, and Don was basically warning Jussie or tipping Jussie off that police didn't believe him and that they were going to be investigating him. So that's not really great news for Don Lemon, as I like to call him. That really implicates him, and that brings just another question to CNN. How, is this an ethics violation? What is going on at CNN? Was this okay? Was this not okay? Some people are calling for Don Lemon to be suspended, so we'll see what happens. I call him Demon. So we'll see what happens with that. But some other things that Jussie said that really didn't make any sense. Again, he's just doubling down on his story. Now he's saying that, yes, I did know the brothers that he accused, but he's saying that they created this fake hate crime to sort of extort Jussie. So one of the things he said was that, so we do know that they were friends before this, and Jussie was saying that one of the brothers he actually met up with at a bathhouse, and they had sexual encounters together while doing cocaine, which is pretty typical of people that live in Hollywood. So I do believe that that probably happened. The brothers are denying it. And the prosecution was asking Jussie, they're like, why, like, how Chicago is such a big city. If somebody wanted to attack you, hi, Mr. Old School, if somebody wanted to attack you, how in the world would they have known that you would be in that exact location at like 2 a.m. in the morning? That just seems highly unlikely. And bathhouse cocaine needs to be a band name. Yeah, bathhouse cocaine. Let's write that down. Or a t-shirt, bathhouse cocaine. And this is Jussie's response to it. His response was, because the one of the brothers was hired to be Jussie's personal trainer, and the reason Jussie says that he hired this brother to be his personal trainer was because he was told that he was fat on by the director of his Empire show, and the reason he left his house. So we do know that he left his house to get eggs and to go to Subway. So he says that he was told by the brother that is his personal trainer, like, hey man, because of your diet regimen, you need to go right now, and you need to go to the store, and you need to get eggs. So that explains, according to Jussie, how the brothers knew where he was going to be at 2 a.m. in the morning, because his diet regimen was so strict that he was instructed to go get eggs at 2 a.m. So that's, according to Jussie, that is how the brothers knew where he was going to be. Hi, Steven. How are you? What else crazy thing did he say? Oh, and even the judge at one point had to tell Jussie to stop arguing. He kept arguing back with the prosecutor, and he told the prosecution that they were attempting to incorrectly portray him to the jury and to the public, and that is not fair, he kept saying. He also said they were questioning him about these back and forth Instagram exchanges, these DMs on his Instagram with the brothers. And he had to make it a point that he has over 5 million followers on Instagram, and he just kept arguing back with the prosecution and was again trying to make himself the victim. They kept reading his text and DM exchanges with one of their brothers where they kept using the N-word, and Jussie had to make it a point to say, can you please stop using that word while you're reading these text messages? So it just appeared to me that he's continuing to try to make himself the victim and find any way out of this he possibly can. He also kept putting up the fist like this whenever reporters were asking him questions outside of the courtroom. So the whole thing is just a complete circus. It was a disaster. He made it a disaster for himself on the stand. We'll see what happens with this. It's still ongoing, but it's really not looking good for Jussie, and it's really no one else's fault but himself. He could have just come clean and said, yeah, I did it, man. I got caught. I didn't get away with it, but I just feel like he keeps digging this hole for himself, and it keeps Cirque du Smollett. Ha! I like that. That's really good. That could be a t-shirt too, or a band, or a circus. There should be a circus with all of these characters in the circus. I think that's an idea. I don't get how he didn't recognize their accent. Oh, and that's it. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. How did you not recognize their accent? Also, this is what he was questioned about on the stand. So he went from saying that his attackers were white to saying that they were pale. And he was asked about this. They were like, why did you change a circus band? I like that, Special K. They were like, why did you change your description from white to pale? Clearly because we know that the brothers are not white. In fact, they're Nigerian. They're very far from white. And he said that he was doing that to be socially responsible. So this individual who is accused of faking his own hate crime is now trying to be socially responsible. That's why he changed the description. So the whole thing is just a sham, and it's really sad that we're in this place in our society, dark white. It's really sad that we're in a place in our society that really props up victims, and that's what incentivizes people to do things like this. Jussie Smollett, the reason he did this, and I was talking to my boyfriend last night, and I was an auditioning actress in LA. YouTube doesn't notify me of Sarah's streams, LOL. I'm sorry, TNN. I'm trying to get a regular schedule. I promise. I'm going to be more responsible and get a regular schedule. Hello, I didn't know you were an actress. So proud of you. Thank you. I still audition, but now you can audition from home, which is really good. But here's the thing about Jussie Smollett, and this is what I was talking about. This is such greed on his part first of all, you could say that Jussie Smollett was a D-list actor. But, so he wasn't someone that I would know or you would know unless you were a fan of that particular show. But he actually was. I don't think he has a good, I don't think he has good character. Clearly, that's my personal opinion of him. But he was a good actor, and he was actually he's actually a really talented singer as well. And if you are any actor, if you can book a show and be a regular on a show, you have just one acting. You might not be super famous, you might not be going to the Oscars or the Golden Globes, but you are able to live full-time on your acting. You have a show, you make good money, you just won life. Like, that is such an incredible thing. There are so many actors in LA that can't book a guest star or a co-star on a show. They will do anything just to get a co-star, which a co-star means you say 2 words on a show and that's your job. And to have a show, a successful show like Empire, and to have all the opportunities that he had available at his fingertips, and then to want more to the point where you have to scam your way into making yourself a victim so you can be this media victim celebrity and the whole world can feel sorry for you to get better roles or to improve your status in Hollywood. I have no respect for that, and it's such greed. And honestly, the same for the brothers too. They knew what they were doing, and Jussie promised them that he could, enhance their acting career, which I don't even know if they have any acting experience. I don't even know if they've ever been to acting school, but it's just bad on both parts. Both people were trying to scam their way in to have better career chances in Hollywood instead of just doing the work and being a good actor and showing up for your auditions or taking acting classes or whatever it is that you need to do in order to better yourself. And I really do believe, if you're supposed to book something, if you're supposed to be in this position in life, you will be. You don't have to scam your way in it, but it's just greed. Not only to mention how racially divided our country already is, and you're just furthering that fake narrative of racial division. It's peak narcissism at the expense of social unrest. Bullies, absolutely, all of them, And so Jussie could be facing up to 3 years in, I don't know if it was in prison or in jail, but he's facing up to 3 years in jail if he's found. That's the maximum sentence that he can get for all of the things that he's being accused of. He's being accused of 6 counts of, I can't remember what it is. Let me know if you remember. I said it earlier. But yes, that is the maximum. I hope they throw the book at him. In a way, I do too, because again, not only are you taking up resources in a city, good morning. Not only are you taking up resources in a city like Chicago, that is probably one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S., you're taking up police officers and investigators that are investigating this fake crime from people that actually need it. And you are making our, political or social climate even more polarizing by saying that this is a racist country and they attacked me because I'm racist. Also, what a narcissist are you to believe that random MAGA people know who you are? Nobody knows who Jussie Smollett is. The only people that know who he is are the people that are big fans of Empire. I haven't met one person that actually watches Empire. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV. Jussie sounds like a merciless individual. MAGA country. Yeah, MAGA country in Chicago? No, I don't think so. Same here. The first time I heard about him was because of all of this, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to become, super famous because of this, and he's like a household name. He's a martyr and all of this stuff, and it backfired. This is so embarrassing. Anywho, let's move on from Jussie. Speaking of embarrassing people, let's talk about AOC. So I actually made a video earlier about some comments that AOC made about this rise in crime, and I have some pretty funny responses for you. So AOC said earlier this week, where is it? Let me just find it for you. So we've been talking a lot about just rising crime in general all over our major cities across the U.S. California in particular has seen this huge increase of smash and grab robberies, which are usually a bunch of people will roll up on a retail store, they run in, they take a bunch of stuff, and then get in their cars and drive off. And now we know it is super organized. So not only are they stealing all this merchandise, but they're going and selling it online. And that was a huge problem with Walgreens too. And this is something that is widely known. There's tons of video evidence of this. There's retailers. There's retailers. Now I can't say it. But they have spoken out against this. And one of the more tragic things that happened is you had a security guard who was actually running or doing security for a local news station. I believe this was San Francisco. It was definitely, the Bay Area. It was definitely the Bay Area. He was doing security for a news organization that was covering one of these smash and grabs, and the man was shot and killed. So not only is this bad retail-wise, this is very dangerous, also very traumatizing if you are a worker in one of these stores or if you're someone that just sees this. I heard stories of there was a Nordstrom, more southern LA, and some of the people talking about what they witnessed. 80 people rolled up on this Nordstrom, ran in and just ransacked the place and ran out. The people in that store were traumatized, said this is one of the scariest things they've ever seen. Imagine seeing 80 people roll up, all like covered and smashing and grabbing while you're just shopping. You don't know if they're gonna hurt you or rob you. So AOC was asked about this question in the Washington Post, and I just want to read you her response again. So AOC says a lot of these allegations of organized retail theft are not actually panning out. She says, she then goes on to say, I believe it's a Walgreens in California that cited it, but the data just didn't back it up. Well, since she said this, Walgreens has actually responded to her comments, and I want to read you what they said. It says, Walgreens responded after far-left representative AOC downplayed the growth of organized retail crime. So Walgreens told the Times that the problem has evolved beyond shoplifting and petty theft to the sale of stolen and counterfeit goods online. Walgreens also added that theft at its San Francisco stores have become so bad that security costs are now 46 times greater than the national average in Walgreens stores. Jason Brewer, Senior Executive Vice President of Communications of Retail Industry Leaders Association, told the Times that AOC has no idea what she is talking about, and that both the data and stack of video evidence make fairly clear that this is a growing problem in need of solutions. If she is not, I like that he said this at the end. He says, if she is not concerned with organized theft and increasingly violent attacks on retail employees, she should just say that. And I love that he said that, because it's true. If you don't care about this growing crime, if you don't care about the safety of the people in the store or the employees, or this gentleman that left behind a family, just go ahead and just outright say it. Don't skirt around it. Don't dance around it. Just say that you do not care about violent crime and theft. Just go ahead and say it. And Jen Psaki was also asked about this. So a reporter, and this was yesterday at the press briefing, a reporter asked Psaki about AOC's remarks and comments from Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And I'll read that to you next, because Lori Lightfoot also made some pretty out-of-touch comments. Who appeared to pass some blame on the robberies to the stores for not taking better security measures. So Psaki was asked about AOC's comments and Lori Lightfoot's comments. So I'll read you Lori Lightfoot's in just a second. So the reporter said, does the president believe that organized theft is really happening? And should it be on the stores themselves to take action and prevent it? She also asked about AOC's comments. And Psaki said, well, we don't agree. Good. And she said, I think our actions and the work that we have had in working with the Justice Department, the FBI, and the federal law enforcement show that we've seen some of these extremely disturbing videos that show retail thefts in both our major retailers as well as state and local leaders like Gavin Newsom have identified this as a serious concern. We'll get to Gavin Newsom next. So Psaki is saying, okay, we don't agree with AOC's comments or Lori Lightfoot, and this is something that we take serious. Whether I believe Jen Psaki in taking this seriously or not that's a whole other issue. I typically don't believe much of what comes out of her mouth, but politically it was really smart of her to distance herself and the administration's selves from AOC's idiotic comments. And this is what Lori Lightfoot said. So Lori Lightfoot was also asked about the increased retail theft. And Chicago is one of those cities that's seeing a lot of increased theft. They had a lot of looting over the riots and just a rise in crime in general. And so Lori Lightfoot was asked about this as well, and this is what she said. Lori Lightfoot said, we still have retailers that won't institute plans like having security officers in their stores, making sure that they've got cameras that are actually operational, locking up their merchandise at night, chaining high-end bags. These purses can be something that is attracting a lot of organized retail theft units. here we go, victim blaming. So she's blaming the retailers for not having enough security and not locking everything up. I love how we went from, and I know this is a far connection, but I love how we went from Me Too, believe all victims, like believe all women, like victim empowerment, the Kavanaugh witch trials, like it doesn't matter if there's no corroborating evidence. If a victim says that something happened to them, something happened to them. And now we've gone full circle and we're just blaming all the victims in this. So it's almost like saying, if you're wearing, how many feminists are like, you can't blame a girl for what she's wearing, it's the person that attacked her, and now we're doing this to retailers. It's you're the problem. It's not the fact that we have allowed a climate to embolden criminals directly because of our policies. But Rob Carr, the president and CEO of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, said Chicago businesses need the finger pointing among leadership to stop. And that's a lot of what is happening. It's happening here in California as well. You have the police pointing fingers at the DA pointing fingers at police. And that's what Lori Lightfoot is doing, because it's way easier to point your finger rather than to say your rhetoric and the policies that you support have made a climate to where criminals feel emboldened. Lori Lightfoot has been known to demonize police officers and, soften sort of the crime statistics, lying to the public and saying that crime is actually going down. Well, we see the numbers. We know what's happening. So he went on to say, the comments that retailers need to do more are sadly misinformed. I think it ignores the fact that retailers spent hundreds of millions of dollars every year on security. We're not going to put the entire store behind glass cases or under lock and key. Retail does not work that way. And he's absolutely right. Do you want to walk into a store where everything is locked up, everything is behind glass? I don't think so. He says, we have a fine line to walk, and I don't think the mayor wants a line of armed personnel in every store. Exactly. Do you want to see that? Do you just want to see tons of security every time you go somewhere? Do you want everything to be locked up and chained up? Do you want it to look like you're walking into a jail? Or maybe we could just start prosecuting criminals, because as we know, it's a small handful of people that commit the majority of crimes. And for instance, in LA, they just arrested 14 people for these smash and grab crimes, and the next day they were let out again. And I'll get more into that in just a second, because speaking of leaders, Jen Psaki and clown people, I was going to talk about him anyway. I forgot that Jen Psaki actually named him. Break's over. Have a great day, y'all. Bye, Masta. Thanks for joining. I forgot that Jen Psaki even mentioned him, but let's talk about Gavin Newsom, because he's gotten a lot of criticism recently too for some of his choices. And yes, he has spoken out against the violent crime, but is it enough to just speak out? I don't know. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and look on, it's on my YouTube shorts, those little tiny short videos. But I had a video that was a scene from the movie Psycho, and it was the guy who plays this psycho who, oh my gosh, he is Psycho. Like, if you look at that character, Psycho, like, that is Gavin Newsom. It's so weird. But that's, every time I see that character, I think Gavin Newsom. But in that scene, it's the character, and clearly he's being fake, but he's sitting there in his probably like $1,000 suit, drinking his fancy martini, and we all know that he is like a serial killer and a psychopath and not a good person. But he's sitting there and he knows all the right things to say, right? He's like, we gotta, we have to care about women's issues and the poor, and we got to help all the people. We got to stop this materialism. And it was clearly so fake, but that's why you can't just listen to what people say. You have to look at what they do. And Gavin Newsom did come out and speak out against the crime, but he's also going on a book tour. So let me just read a little bit of this for you. So, by the way, I think this is actually really cool. I didn't know this, but Gavin Newsom is dyslexic, and I'm not trying to make fun of him, but he wrote a book on dyslexia, and I actually think that's pretty cool that he's open about it, and he wrote a book, but it's really just about the timing of all of this. So, it says Newsom is beginning the tour for Ben and Emma's big hit in New York City this week, leaving California on Monday. That's the name of his book. The governor suffers from dyslexia. He said in an interview recently that he still can't spell the word dress and wanted to help children who suffered as well. Many locals are angered by Newsom's jaunt across the U.S. and say he should be concentrating on fixing California's urgent problems. The book tour launches as organized group of thieves continue to terrorize cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Last week, LA police arrested 14 suspects alleged to have been involved in 11 recent smash and grab robberies at stores last month. However, due to the city's zero bail policies, the suspects were all released within hours of being handcuffed and are currently walking the streets. Yay. This year alone, through November 27th, there were 7,542 robberies in Los Angeles as compared to 7,200 last year. That's a 3.9% rise. I actually thought it was more than that. But let's see what Gavin Newsom said about the crime. He did say something. So here we are again with just strange timing. California, I believe, is still in a state of emergency due to COVID. Not only is he going on this book tour after he re-implemented the state of emergency and started imposing vaccine mandates on certain areas, he actually flew off to, I believe, Hawaii, but he went on a very lavish, very expensive holiday with his family while California is still in a state of emergency, and now he is going on a book tour, which I think it's actually cool. That's a cool idea to write a book about that, especially a children's book. I think that's cool, but why are you doing that now? And it just seems a little like his caring about this problem seems a little disingenuous. He did speak out about the smash and grab, and this is the smash and grabs, and this is what he said: if people are breaking and stealing your property, they need to be arrested. Police need to arrest them. Prosecution needs to prosecute them. Judges need to hold people accountable for breaking the law. He says, these are not victimless crimes, and I have no empathy for these criminals. I agree with the statement wholeheartedly. But here's another thing about Jen Psaki, about Gavin Newsom, and about Lori Lightfoot. They have all supported policies that are allowing this to happen. Gavin Newsom is the one who originally appointed George Gascon a long time ago in San Francisco and basically helped George Gascon get started on this path. Gavin Newsom also supported George Gascon. Gavin Newsom supports lower cash bail. Gavin Newsom is the one that let 63,000, it's either 63,000 or 76,000 prisoners out of prison during COVID. So he is the one that supported a lot of these policies, and now he's speaking out against the crime, but what exactly is he doing? And he said that the reason, he was actually asked about this. He said, he was asked, do you think this is the right time for you to be going on a book tour? Shouldn't you be staying in California and helping with this situation? But he went on to say, well, this is really an issue for the mayors, not an issue for the government. So it's an issue for the mayor of Los Angeles. It's an issue for the mayor of San Francisco, not an issue for him, which is really crazy because if you remember how dictatorial he was during the pandemic, imposing all of these lockdowns and things, he seemed to have a different idea of his role as governor when it came to COVID, not necessarily when it's coming to these smash and grabs. And again, I would think he would take on more responsibility given the fact that these, again, are policies that he himself supported. And I don't know if you remember, but Gavin Newsom got attacked. I think he was in Oakland. Yes, he was in Oakland, California a few months back and actually got physically attacked. He wasn't hurt. His security was right there, but he actually got physically attacked by a homeless individual. That is how out of control some of this crime is in California. And I did hear a little bit of insiders saying that this book was actually sort of a plan B just in case the recall effort went through. So as you know, he survived a recall effort against him, and apparently this book was supposed to be a plan B in case he was no longer the governor of California. But it just goes to show, and the reason I brought up that scene from Psycho is because you say one thing, you say the right things. Okay, I agree with that statement. Crime bad. You know, people should be held accountable, but you do the opposite. You know, the same with Jen Psaki. And I think the reason they're having to speak out about the crime now is because it's gotten so bad. And I think a lot of people, whether Democrat, independent, people have their lines. You know, like people, there's a lot of people that are just regular, normal people that will vote blue no matter what. If a Democrat is running, they're going to vote blue. But even these individuals are now saying, okay, enough is enough. Your policies are getting out of hand. And I think for a lot of people, that line is messing with their kids, or, you know, people not feeling safe in their own neighborhoods, going shopping in their own homes. You've seen an increase in follow home robberies and burglaries, and just random robberies on the street. Just recently, there was a robbery at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, and it was late in the evening, and two men were actually standing outside in the valet area, and a car pulled up on them and stole their watches and robbed them of a lot of stuff. So this is happening everywhere, and you even have one of our police officers urging people not to visit Los Angeles. They're saying it's just not a good time to come. It's not really safe right now. We have a lot of crime and not a lot of resources. And you have Gavin Newsom also, again, pointing fingers at the prosecutors. Okay, but the prosecutor who is implementing these things, that's also a prosecutor that you supported. So again, you have, even in Los Angeles, there's all this finger pointing, and no one's really taking accountability for this. So there's clown Gavin Newsom living in his clown world and blaming everything else, and now he is off doing a book tour. So doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound a little Andrew Cuomo-like, doing a book tour while you have things in your own state that you need to take care of? Shouldn't maybe he wait until after he's not the governor anymore? I mean, there's an election coming up in 2022. Shouldn't he wait until he is no longer the governor of California? Maybe that would be a good time to put out a book. But that's how they think. They don't care about their constituents. They don't care about their people. They care about their image. That's about all they care about, is their image. They don't care about having good policies, about making things safe, about people in their state living good lives. They care about their image. That's all this is about. It's the game of politics. Speaking of, let's go to the next clown. That was if you weren't here at the beginning of the live stream, I said that typically when I'm preparing for these live streams, I'll pick the stories that I want to talk about. And while I'm putting everything together, a theme will sort of inadvertently present itself. A theme will unintentionally present itself. And as I was putting together all these stories, that was the theme that presented itself, and the theme was clown people. So that's kind of the theme of this live stream, is clown people. And it's fun when the theme kind of presents itself. But Kamala Harris, Sarah just knocking down these stories. Someone mentioned that I looked like Kristen Bell. I saw that. I used to get that a lot. And if I can ever find it, I will show you. But there was a point in time, as Kristen Bell and I have gotten older. You know, when you get older, I'm not saying I'm old but when you get older, your face changes, or you grow into yourself. There was a point in time when Kristen Bell and I looked identical. We had the same haircut. Both of our faces were more round. We have similar eyes and a similar smile. But there was a point in time where we had the same haircut and we looked absolutely identical. And you don't know how tall I am, but Kristen Bell and I are also the same exact height. And I looked so much like her. I have gotten mistaken for her before. but I have a headshot that if I were to show it to you, you would say, that's Kristen Bell. I looked identical to Kristen Bell, which is really funny. I still get it like once in a blue moon, but at that time, there were a few years that her and I were basically the same person. I also used to get, because of my voice, Kristen Chenoweth a lot. And I took singing lessons for a while for my voiceover, because you have to sing a lot for animated characters. And where I was taking singing lessons at, they made me sing all Kristen Chenoweth songs because they thought it was funny. But she did have some really good show tunes. Okay, so this is really funny. Kamala Harris and just the White House in general, we've been seeing their just atrocious favorability poll numbers. Kamala Harris right now, this is according to Rasmussen, 57% of voters have an unfavorable view of Kamala Harris. 39% favor her, which is abysmal. It's actually better than what I thought. I actually read, was it the Boston Herald? I did read in a Boston Herald, they had another poll, which I had never heard of the poll they were citing, so I don't know how good that poll is. But they actually had a poll that said that Kamala Harris's approval was actually only at 12%. So whatever poll they conducted, but I'll go with Rasmussen, even though I think more people dislike her, but she has a serious likability issue. And if you remember, during the Democratic primaries, when she was still considering running for president, her likability was, or her polling numbers were at 6%. It was just awful and atrocious. And, you know, Kamala Harris, in my opinion, is the perfect example of why you should never hire people based on like one or two characteristics. They needed a woman. They wanted someone who was a minority, and so they picked Kamala Harris. They did not pick her based on merit. They did not pick her based on her polling numbers, and that's proven. We all know this, because why on earth would you pick a VP who had a 6% after the primaries? Clearly, people do not like her. And if you watch any of her interviews, it is so awkward. She is so unprepared. She doesn't know how to answer tough questions, and people don't ask her tough questions. Very true. You should get the best person. Yes, and Kamala Harris is a perfect example of why you should do that. Why you should not hire anyone based on identity politics. We know why she was hired, and it's sad. She shouldn't have been hired that way. You should be hired based on merit, and there are tons of people that have merit. I really liked Tulsi Gabbard. I thought she would have been a great pick. Tulsi Gabbard is one Democrat that I would vote for in a heartbeat, depending on who she was running against and what her policies, what she was running on. But Tulsi Gabbard, if they wanted a woman, they should have picked Tulsi Gabbard, but they would never pick Tulsi Gabbard because Tulsi Gabbard thinks for herself, and she doesn't go with the political climate. Her policies are based on principle, which is how it should be, but it's not. And Tulsi Gabbard just obliterated Kamala Harris in the primary debates, where she questioned Kamala Harris on why she over-incarcerated men and why she kept them in jail longer than they should have been for cheap labor, and that just basically shut Kamala Harris up. And right after that is when she dropped out of wanting to run for president, and right after that was when her poll numbers were around 6%. In a normal world where up is up and down is down, that would have ended Kamala Harris's political career, because it was just that bad. I've never seen anything like it. But she is probably one of the most disingenuous, just unlikable politicians that I've ever even seen. She's not even a good fake politician. At least Gavin Newsom, you have to give him some credit. I mean, we know because we talk about the news all the time and we research things, but if I didn't, at least Gavin Newsom can come across like he's good at politicking. At least he's good at politicking, and he knows how to say things, and he knows how to make them sound good. But Kamala Harris can't even do that. Everything is just so cringy and so disingenuous. But not only are her poll numbers terrible, but some staffers, you might have heard this story before, an ex-aide actually came out, and so we do know that a lot of people are quitting her office. Isn't totally odd. That does happen a lot. people just cycle in and out, especially the first year in the White House, because you're going from campaigning to being in the White House, and those are two totally different jobs. So one of her ex-aides actually came out and spoke about the sort of climate in her office, and this is their opinion of her. So they said, it's clear that you're not working with someone who is willing to do the prep work and the actual work. With Kamala, you have to put up with a constant amount of soul-destroying criticism and also her own lack of confidence. So you're constantly sort of propping up a bully, and it's really not clear why. I've never had an experience in my Someone did come out and actually defended her. Someone said, I've never had an experience in my long history with Kamala where I felt like she was unfair. So of course she's going to have people come out and defend her, but we've heard a few accounts that her office is chaotic, that she's kind of a bully, she gets angry very easily, and that she's unprepared. Now, this could just be a disgruntled employee, or, we know how millennials are. They don't like to work hard. So that could be the case, but all you have to do is look at her interviews. Look at the way she answers questions. She never seems prepared, and it actually makes sense, because I have talked about this on this live stream or on this channel before, that I'm so shocked. Yes, I'm shocked at the way that Kamala Harris answers some of these questions, because you have to know in advance that people are going to, yes, she just cackles. Like when she was asked, when are you going to go visit the border? And she just cackled and said, well, I haven't been to Europe, so I don't understand. Do you guys remember that? She was sitting down having an interview. She was named border czar. She has still never been to the border, won't even talk about it. And in a sit-down interview, and to me, this wasn't even a hard-hitting question. I think they should have pressured her a lot more. But in this interview, she was asked, so have you been to the border? Do you plan on going to the border? And she just cackled uncomfortably and said, well, I also haven't been to Europe, so I don't understand the point you're making. The point he's making is that you are the border czar, and that there is currently a humanitarian disaster going on the border. So will you be tackling this anytime soon? But that just, to me, proves that she is unprepared. If you are the border czar and you know that there's a disaster at the border, you should be prepared to answer questions about the border. And clearly she wasn't at all prepared, and we've seen this time and time again. And I don't really think that she gets really tough, hard-hitting questions. But again, this is what happens when you prop someone up, when the media doesn't get someone on merit, and when during the whole campaign, when none of the coverage is actually fair and truthful, when it's all daisies and roses, and Kamala Harris is the hero because she's a woman, and no one asks tough questions. This is what happens. This is the end result of that. So we should go back to hiring people based on merit. But and another part, Kamala Harris, is she lacks confidence. I totally believe she lacks confidence, because again, I think someone on Fox News actually said it really well. She has imposter syndrome. She was not hired based on merit. She was hired based on just a few characteristics that they could check off the box to make it look good. So of course she has imposter syndrome. She did not earn this. And you know she knows. She did not earn the title or the position of vice president. She checked off a few convenient boxes. So no wonder her office is chaotic, if this is true. No wonder she lacks confidence, because who wouldn't have imposter syndrome? I know I did not earn this. That can't feel good. That's why I would never want to be Kamala Harris. That cannot feel good. And she has done absolutely nothing since she's been elected vice president. Nothing. And she doesn't have, she doesn't have a platform. Even when she was running for president, she didn't have a platform. She is another one of those people, just like Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom probably has he's better at being a politician than Kamala. You have to give him that. But Kamala has always flip-flopped, She used to be really tough on crime, putting all of those men away in prison. And then all of a sudden, when it was more politically convenient to be more pro-criminal, all of a sudden she is sort of on the side of defund the police, and she's helping to bail out rioters, and she goes to visit Jacob Blake. She goes to visit Jacob Blake. So she just flip-flops to whatever she thinks is going to allow her to win elections. She doesn't have principles. She just goes with it, and that's why they liked her. That's why they don't like someone like Tulsi, because Tulsi actually has principles. But someone that has principles oftentimes will go against the mainstream approved narrative. And speaking of the mainstream narrative, I thought this was so funny. So now we keep hearing the Biden administration and people in media saying that the media is all this negative coverage of the Biden administration. It's not fair. And there's more negative coverage on the Biden administration than there was on Donald Trump. First of all, I don't think that's true. But there's a difference between negative coverage and unfair negative coverage. The reason there is negative coverage on the Biden administration is because there is not one thing that they have done since they have taken office to improve the lives of regular Americans. There is a border crisis. There is inflation. They took away the Keystone Pipeline, which made gas prices soar. The Afghanistan withdrawal was an absolute unplanned disaster. It didn't have to be that bad. No one's arguing that we should have stayed there, but it didn't have to be that bad. And it's just one thing after another, after another, after another with the Biden administration. It's all bad policy. So I don't think that it's unfair negative coverage. I think that it's accurate negative coverage. The difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration is that they were unfairly attacking Trump and they were lying about him. The kids in cages lie, the Russia collusion lie, the good people on both sides hoax. He did great things with immigration, but they lied and called him the R word. He brought down taxes for middle class and lower income families. He reduced the amount of people that were on welfare, which again is a tax burden on everyone else. He did so many good things. He had historic peace in the Middle East. He did so many good things, but they would not cover anything good that he actually did, even though it benefited the lives of average Americans, especially middle class and lower income individuals. They never talked about that. But with the Biden administration, there isn't anything good that he's done. So there's nothing good to report on. And now we have, oh wait, where is it? So it says here, this is from the New York Post. The White House has been secretly begging news organizations to give favorable coverage to President Biden rather than focus on his failings. What has he done that's good? Please, somebody, can somebody tell me, I know we don't like the Brandon administration, but can somebody tell me one thing good that he's done? Just one thing. The administration is not happy with the unflattering headlines and coverage of the supply chain disaster. Oh yeah, that's another thing. You have the supply chain disaster. And handling of the economy, and has been working behind the scenes to try to reshape coverage in his favor. Senior White House